All right, so I am going to show the workflow for using Arcadia, which is Clojure inside of the Unity game engine. So let's start a new project. This is Linux, but it's the same as any other operating system. And we are going to be making a kind of a bad clone of Super Hexagon. So I'm going to start a new project and call it Circle Train. And I'm using Sublime Text as my editor. And so to make a Sublime Text project, you just kind of add a folder to an empty file. And then save project as circle. Circle train dot sublime project. All right, don't need internet services. Okay, so the first thing is to clone the Arcadia repo into the project directory. So git clone, https Arcadia/Arcadia Unity. I don't think you need the develop branch. I think it's the main branch, but I just use it anyway. github.com/Arcadia. Why is that not working? Oh, wait. I know. It's Arcadia Unity is the group name. Arcadia is the repo. Okay, give this a sec. And then the one thing you have to do is in project settings, under the player, other settings, you want to use .NET 2.0. And then this needs to load Arcadia, which could take multiple seconds, maybe 20 seconds even. No? Oh, wait. So this needs to go inside the assets folder. So we're just going to move Arcadia to assets. And then now it should recognize it. Okay, so this should take about 15 seconds or so. Which is because it has to import a lot of stuff, and then also it has to boot up the Clojure environment. I guess while I wait, I can go into my assets. And no, not new file. New folder. Just make a folder for game scripts. And we'll just call this game.core, which will be core.clj. All right, so we have Arcadia started in the log. And there is a REPL running. If you show the REPL, well, maybe that's not working right now, but there is a REPL running. So if I go here, just get a different panel. And so I'm using a custom REPL inside of Sublime Text. But there's a bunch of different ways you can configure a REPL with your editor. But so here's Clojure running inside of Unity. If we use arcadia.core, we can log to the console. So we're all set up. I've got a send to REPL command. So basically, I hit a command, and whatever form is underneath the mouse will get evaluated inside the REPL, which helps out a lot. And yeah, so we're set up. I'm going to go into play mode, which is going to take another 15-20 seconds. And I'm going to try and stay in play mode because this just takes too long to switch in and out between the two. Okay, so now we're in play mode. The environment has been flushed, so we're back into plain user core user namespace. So I'm going to bring in arcadia.core, arcadia.linear, which is like the vector math namespace. And now I can start to do things like, let's make a start game. It takes one argument, and create primitive, which is arcadia.core function sphere. And then if I invoke it, we get a sphere. All right, so one of the problems with play mode is that any changes you make to like the camera or whatever, they'll be lost once you exit play mode. But I'm not going to try and exit play mode, but still save those changes. So I do that by saving changes to prefabs, which you can instantiate if they're inside of a specially named resources folder. So here's resources. So if I drag the camera into resources, any changes I make to the prefab will persist. And then if I want to change something in the scene, I can just drag that onto this, and then those changes will persist. So I'm going to rename this to sun. I don't like spaces inside of names. Rename this to camera. And actually delete these from the scene because I want to build everything with code. I don't want to have any sort of like scene preset up. I'm also going to bring in some personal libraries instead of doing everything from scratch. So let me and get clone. All right, so this is just a bunch of personal stuff that I built up over the years for doing interop with the Unity's API. So, if you look at the Unity scripting docs, all that stuff can be accessed with interop, and it's easier usually to just wrap it with a function so you remember what you're doing. And one of the things I use a lot is clone, which it basically instantiates a resource from that folder, and then it saves a reference to it so that I can actually just like destroy everything that I've ever cloned, which is useful for like making a level. So I'm going to bring in hardcore. Which should be like lost responsiveness. Okay. Oh, the environment was flushed. Whenever you bring in scripts, like the environment tends to get flushed, which is a pain, but that's why I didn't have anything saved in the scene, so I didn't lose anything. Okay, so now I have the hardcore library. It loaded, it actually created a sphere because I had that function being called. So now I can do clone, bang, camera, clone, sun. All right, so there I get, my scene starts to get set up, and then if I was going to rerun this, I would get duplicates, and it's complaining about 2 cameras. So I'm going to use the clear clone. So that every time I run this function, I get my scene set up. And the camera, I want to be looking straight down, which rotate x90. Okay, so I made a change to the camera inside the scene. So I drag that back into my prefab, which means that now when I run this function, the camera is set up. All right, so I guess it's time to start doing a little bit of the gameplay, which is basically a circle that you can rotate. I mean, it's like a little player. Let me find a video super hexagon. Yeah, you have like a little player that rotates around the center of the game, and you avoid all this shit. All right, so I need a player. Which is kind of big, but that's really the camera's fault. Yeah. All right. Save that camera change. This guy will be called player. And he's supposed to travel in a circle, which you could do with like cosine and sine, but I'm going to do it by just rotating an empty that he's attached to. So attach him there. He should actually just be called something else. Okay. And then if we give him an offset, okay, so now if I rotate the player, yeah. So moving your input should just rotate him around that center point. All right, so I'm going to save him as a prefab. And then the let binding, we're going to say player is clone player. Okay, we got a duplicate player because that one was not a prefab. All right, there we go. Okay, so now the keys need to rotate him, so I'm going to make a handle input function. This first argument is needed for the Arcadia hooks, which I guess I should explain now, is that instead of adding components to these guys, you add a hook for each message, which calls a clojure function. So I'll just gonna log something, and we want this function to run every frame on update. So we're gonna go hook plus player update, and then the var literal is, what is this, game.core/handle input, which is going to add an Arcadia behavior component to the player and call this function every time the input message fires. Okay, so you see it in the console. Spamming that is working. If I change the function, because it's a var, the actual thing will change without having to reclone anything. All right, so for key input, make the font bigger. The interop is basically you import Unity Engine input, and then it's like input dot something. Yeah, get key. Get key. So I've got a key down, key, and key up. So if I use hard.input, load that. I can do like a if key, continuously pressed key, A, I think. It's not throwing an error. If I try something that doesn't exist, yeah, you have to use the actual right thing for the key. So A, just log left. So now if I focus the game window, when I press the A key, it's ready to do something. I guess we really only need 2 keys. And they should rotate the player. So the player is O. Like if I do a log O, oh, you need something. If I do a log O, yeah, it's going to show it's the game object. And I need to rotate that, which is one of my interop is going to be rotate bang on a vector 0, negative. Okay, that's very slowly moving. Let's try 1. I think that's like Euclidean angles. Okay. Let's try negative 2. And 2. These things should probably not be magic hard-coded. Okay. That is still, let's just make a def player speed, and let's call that 6. And that's really verbose p speed. You can't actually, yeah, you can't use a minus sign like that right next to a symbol, because minus signs are valid symbol characters. All right. Yeah, that's much nicer, much faster. Okay, so that's pretty much all the player needs to do is just go, left and right and avoid stuff coming at him. So we want some sort of, segments of a circle that come out from the middle that you kind of avoid. I'm going to fire up Blender. What screen am I on? And so if I want 6 segments, let's just do this by hand. Alright, so I want to spin this. There's a spin operator. I want it to go 360 degrees. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. Okay, so I want, well, 6 would give me a super hexagon, but I want a circle. So, what, 36? And then, so if this was 3, geez. What's 18 divided by 3? 6 segments. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's got to be more than that. Or maybe 6 edges. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so if I take these and extrude, yeah, so this is my segment, which, you know, should be, yeah, rotated. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to name this segment. I'm going to give it a little depth. Make sure the normals are on the outside. And then I can export this as FBX. Where am I? Unity, circle train, assets, new folder, FBX, and just call it segment. So the Blender's export I always get wrong, but I want selected objects, Y forward, apply transform. Let's try that. Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, the pivot's right there. Oh, what is this? Yeah, no, so that's... Do I want Y up? Let me try that. I'm trying to get like a yeah, like no rotation and it's in the right spot. So that's, I guess I wanted Y up. That's fine. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over into the resources as a prefab. Delete that one. So yeah, so if I clone segment, I get a segment. So I want different patterns of these things. Probably based on some sort of like 1 0 1 0, like six numbers, ones and zeros. Yeah, I want some sort of make ring function that makes whatever pattern of these is coming out. So let's defen make ring. Pat. So how would one do that? For segment and pat, now maybe I want a map indexed because I need to know the index of which segment it's on. So we're gonna get the index and the segment 1 or 0. If S is 1, we want to do this. And then we want to rotate that because we can just rotate out from 0 0. So v3 0 something 0, and this something is going to be times I. What is Lord, basic math is not my strong point. 60. All right, so let me just delete this, please. This should work. I hope this works. Yeah, cool. Cool. Okay, so these need to grow from they need to clone and just keep getting bigger. So we could do that. We'll do that with another hook. So we need a segment. Oh no, we need a ring. Oh, you know what? These should all be under one single empty object. So just gonna make an empty called empty in resources. Geez, in the center of the screen. Okay, so if we let the ring be clone empty, then when we make these, what does rotate return? Okay, good, the object. So I can just do a parent that to the ring. No single method parent. Oh, wait. That's bang. Bang is a mutation. Exciting mutation. All right, so now when I make a ring, it's just like one single object, and this is the thing that, well, it's going to scale up. So we need a ring update function. So every frame, um, local scale is in my interop, which I don't need to actually get the transform. It's all under the hood. V3 plus, I think I want to add scale every frame. .1. Okay, so after I create a ring, I want to add that as a hook. All right, so I make a ring, and no, errors, many errors. Oh yeah, because, wait, does ring update a thing? Yeah, that's a function. That should be a var, but I don't think it doesn't matter. Oh, maybe rotate. Hmm. That all works. Parent. Oh, maybe I gotta cast that as a game object again. Maybe that's the transform. Wait. Oh, okay. That's probably one of my things that's not designed well. Yeah, I decided that it only takes game objects, which was maybe not the best decision. And then what is Arcadia.chords G object? So if I just do still complaining. Oh, maybe it's something with the hook. Yeah, no, we know that parent was working fine. So why is local scale? Oh, you can't add, yeah, you can't just add a number to a vector. I mean, I don't know why that's not a convention you can do, because it's kind of obvious what a single number would do to three numbers, but um, yeah, so we just want this as a vector. This is going to be, okay, update u. Okay, so the empty is scaling up. Um, oh, this is lazy, so if it's not the last thing, it doesn't even get, it doesn't even happen. Unless something asks, for lazy values, they never actually get computed, which is nice until you forget about it. Okay, so there's our rings. They sort of slow down as they get bigger because of, I guess, because you're adding something. I mean, probably if it had like its pivot point at one side, it would just be like a linear, change where the x scaled up. But because it's in the center, huh? Maybe I shouldn't even worry about that. Um, well, I could try doing like a times 1.1. Oh yeah, and then vector multiplication, you can't use another vector, which is also makes no sense to me. Yeah, that's linear, right? Um, yeah, nice. Um, I want some sort of just a game speed in case we decide to make it get harder or something. I want everything to speed up, except for the player motion. Intensity. So if we say that's 5, and then we want that 0.05. Yeah. So 1 plus, or you know what? So one of the things when you do this sort of every update frame do something is that different computers will have different amounts of update frames per second because they're faster or cheaper or whatever. Um, so I've got this little delta macro thanks to Ramsey Nasser, and so maybe I think I can it just multiplies whatever times the elapsed time, the delta time. So I think if I just okay, so maybe we just intensity starts at 1. Yeah. So everything that like happens on update really should get, multiplied times the delta time. So where was the player? Um, so yeah, I want both of these also. And now he's going really slow, so we just bump this up. It's sort of like a magic number, whatever the delta time thing is. Okay, maybe a little faster. faster. All right. So that's the basics that we need to just put it all together. Um, well, so we want to have like a string of these things, like def level 1 is just a vector of, different patterns. And yeah, so it goes through these, maybe with some like nils as to represent, nothing. So how does it use that? All right, I'm going to bring in another of my libraries, which is called Tween, and it lets you do sort of sequencing and animation stuff. So let Unity bring that in. All right. I think the environment, yeah. The environment has been completely flushed. But so let's just do tween.core. Okay, so it loaded it. Oh, 2 audio listeners. Just delete everything. Yeah. Okay, so I want to spit out these level segments on a regular basis. So I'm going to use a timeline. A looped timeline. And one of these is going to be a weight. Weight intensity, which is going to be like 1 second. And then you're going to spit out one of these. I guess I could just, for now, say rand nth of level 1. Oh yeah, make ring. This needs to handle nils. Alright, so when that's not nil, you make a ring. Actually, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna have it run. I'm gonna have it make a ring, like no matter what. So let's just do pat is actually, if it's nil, else just use whatever you give it. So it'll have an empty one if you just give it a nil. So make ring. Yeah, So that makes an empty ring. All right, so this, all right, so question from the chat is that my syntax highlighting in Sublime Text. So I use like a custom clojure syntax because the default one it shipped with was horrible. So that's just github.com/selfsame/Arcadia REPL. Let me just bring that. So that replaces it. It has its own color schemes because the default one does a very bad job of recognizing some things. All right, so the timeline loops. It waits for however fast the game is going. It makes a ring. Right now we're just picking a random one. And this should actually, these timeline functions need to return nil when they're done. So we want it just to create a ring and immediately be done and go back to the wait for intensity. So let's see what that does. Huh. That did like one? Why only one? Oh, it's loop, not looped. Okay. That's, I'm very okay with this. I mean, you can actually play this right now and just pretend like, you can't hit anything. They should maybe, I mean, one of the things with Super Hexagon that's nice is that they'll actually, these segments will butt up against each other to make like a solid wall. So you'll have to like have these like clever paths through there. But I mean, I could like change the intensity to something lower. Hmm, that's interesting. Huh. I need everything to stop. Okay, so there's just way too many of these rings. I think when they get to a certain point, the floating point values of their scale gets like closer to infinity or something, and it's throwing errors, but they should just destroy themselves after a certain amount of time. Which I can use another timeline for. Like, let me see. We gave it a hook. We should just be able to fire off a timeline. Like, wait 4 seconds, and then destroy the ring. What does destroy return? No? Yeah, so that should be fine. As a function. Okay, so make ring. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so that it cleans up after itself. So now if I start this, these things won't, just like kill our frame rate after playing for like a half hour. And I think, yeah, they get all the way out of the view, so you don't notice that they're in the view or not. Okay. Um, okay, so these things should do something when they hit you. Um, Mainly just end the game and tell you that you didn't do so good. So we need some sort of collision on the player, which is going to be a physics. Oh wait, no, the player's empty. Inside the player we got the ball. And the ball already has a spear collider. Yeah, so this is a trigger. Okay, so we want, when this hits something, we need to hook into that function. So okay, so we can just use children. The player's only going to have one children, so we can just say the ball is the first children of the player. And we want to hook into that. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so we'll just call this collide. It's got the object and then the collide info, collision info. Something. It's got something. So we'll just log C, and we're gonna hook plus the ball on collision enter. Okay, so yeah, that's a function. Hook into that, and then we're starting a new one, and nothing's happening. Are these things actually touching it? Yeah, they're actually touching it. Oh, maybe the segments don't have any sort of... Yeah, these need to have a mesh collider. And I'm still not seeing anything. Okay, so these definitely have a mesh collider. This is a trigger on the ball, and it's got on collision enter hook. Which to me would seem to actually call this on collision enter. Yeah, so it takes two args. Oh, wait. Okay, so we didn't persist our changes to the prefab. So the ball is a trigger. We need to persist these. The segment has a mesh collider that's persistent, and then we need an on trigger enter because the ball is in a rigid body, so it's not doing any collision, but we don't want it. We just want that to let us know when they intersect. So this should be on trigger enter. So okay, evaluate that because that changed, and start game. Still nothing. Trigger. Oh, you don't need this collision hook. Wow. Is it just logging the wrong thing? No? Oh, maybe these need to be, whoa, stop. Maybe these need to be convex? Just kill that. Kill those. We got a segment. No, we don't want them to be convex. These can only be triggers when they're convex. I mean, I guess that's fine because it's not going to intersect with the inside edge. It doesn't need to be a trigger. Okay, maybe the ball should not be a trigger, and the segment should be a trigger. Yeah, destroy you. Update this. Yeah, I think maybe that's how this works. No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay. Maybe the hook has to be on the top level object. Nothing. Just create a cube. Like, if you're a trigger, you don't cause anything to happen. If you're not a trigger, nothing happens. Man, I am stumped. Let's try making this a rigid body, kinematic. I mean, that doesn't feel right, but this can be smaller. Changes on collision. I need to clear these hooks before I add them. Which is Arcadia source, Arcadia core, hook clear, object hook. Okay, so that's just to help me from not having um, duplicate hooks when I save it as a resource. Yeah, you can get out of here. You don't have anything. Okay, still nothing happening. All right, I'm gonna pause the stream because this is not figuring itself out quickly.